Hey guys, Squatcher Loading here. Today we're going to get that powder cop set up. I've already set up the powder measure and got my charge where I want it. So if you're interested in how to set up the Dillon powder measure, I'm going to drop a link below into a video I did back a few months ago on the 9mm series. It's on a Dillon 550C. However, the methodology and the concept all applies the same way to the XL750. So what we're going to do today, we're going to get that powder cop set up. I'm going to show you the ins and outs of that. And then basically we're ready to start cranking out some rounds. So we're going to put these 180 grain accurate outdoor hollow points. We're going to run them all through this press. I got 500 or so it's going to be a good day of working out some Dillon aerobics. So let's get started. Alright, so our powder cop is going to go in station 3, and it utilizes a standard Dillon powder measure die or powder die. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and get that lock ring all the way to the top. We're going to get it in a few threads, and then we're going to raise our shell plate up. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and take this almost all the way down. We want to leave about 1/8 of an inch or so of gap from the shell plate. So typically what I like to do is run it down and just kind of eyeball it, about 1/8 of an inch. That's all it takes. And then we'll have to pull this pin out so we can get our wrench on and get this lock ring buttoned down. Alright, there we go. Again, we're just going to button this die up like I said, about an 1/8 inch gap right there on the shell plate. So that's good enough. So now let's go ahead and get the sensor body itself installed. Alright, so here's our actual sensor, our powder cop assembly. So what I want to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have that lock nut loose. And that's just a 3/8 wrench. I'm going to run it almost all the way up. So what I want to do is install this. There's a hole right here on station 3. And you want to make sure you center that up into that hole, because it's actually going to hit on your shell plate. So once we get that centered up with the powder cop, and I believe it's a 1/8 inch Allen, yep, we have a lock tab here that just slides in like so, and we take our 1/8 inch Allen wrench and get that snugged up, again making sure we center up this shaft into that hole, and then we're going to go ahead and tighten that down. Alright. Okay, the first thing I want to check is I want to make sure that I'm getting even contact here to start off with. I have the shaft adjusted all the way up, so we're going to bring the ram up and we're going to check and make sure we're getting some contact here, but not too much. And again, this is somewhat spring-loaded with this plastic leaf here, but so that looks good for right now. We're probably going to have to adjust it. So the next step is we're going to lower the ram. And now that we have the ram lowered, I'm going to take the actual shaft that goes into the cartridge, and we're going to have to change this tip here in a minute. But what I like to do is set it in upside down and make sure that I get a signal, because that's going to be representative of either a missing charge or an overcharge. Okay? And what I'm looking for is that I'm getting a good solid signal, that I'm using the majority of this stroke in this little sensor shaft there. So that looks pretty good. Alright, now that I have the shaft adjusted where it's making good contact, I'm going to pull out that plunger, and then we're going to hold this here and get this lock nut buttoned up. Alright, to snug this up, I'm going to put a 5/32 Allen key into the bolt, and then I'm just going to tighten up the lock nut just a little bit. It doesn't take much. And then we're ready to move on. Alright, so in the powder cop kit, it comes with 3 different size plungers here, and that's what I'm going to call them. You have one that looks like it'll fit like a 22 caliber and below. This one, which we were running on our 9mm, which we'll probably have to run on our 10mm as well. And then this one for bigger stuff, maybe 45 ACP and up. So I got a 10mm cartridge here. So we're going to try to put the biggest one in, and we're looking at this one, the 45 and up. I'm thinking no. The 9mm fits pretty good, or it's probably 38 and up, and then this one is for 22. It's a little small, so we're going to go ahead and use this one right here. So what we want to do is go ahead and thread on our shaft here, and go ahead and put our lock nut on. And we're just going to kind of leave everything loose here at the moment, because we're going to go ahead and adjust this in our powder cop. Alright, so I have a charged case with the charge weight that I'm running in this run, and so now we want to set this rod depth. So I'm going to drop it in, and I'm going to raise the ram, and the alarm should go off. Maybe we'll get lucky and it won't, but then we're going to adjust so that this pin, or this sensor shaft, is centered up into this V groove here. So here we go, and it's pretty simple. So just like so, and then we're going to hold it and go ahead and lock down this lock nut here. And it doesn't take a lot of effort, just get it there. And we're centered up pretty nice, so we're going to run a couple more through and make sure that they're good. And then we're going to test it for no charge or overcharge. Alright, we're just going to run a couple here and make sure that we have an empty charge, that we're getting an alarm. Grab another bullet here. So we should get an alarm because there's no cartridge in there, so that would kind of simulate no charge. Alright. Alright, so we got that powder cop set up. I confirmed everything, it's working okay. And you'll notice it kind of herky-jerky sometimes, but overall it does give you peace of mind. And again, I still peek down in there because I got this nice LED light there, so I still peek down and look at every one. So we're ready. We're going to get these 10mm cases that are already prepped, clean, decapped. I'm going to lube them up with some one-shot, and again, just on my pistol brass. I like the way it makes the press run smooth. It just things go together better for me. But again, it's entirely up to you if you want to use case lube or not. What's nice about the one shot is it doesn't leave a sticky residue. You don't have to do any other cleaning or anything after it. Just all it does is makes things run a little bit smoother for me. So I'm going to get these lubed, put in the case feeder, and then we're going to run some and see how they look. Alright guys, so just a couple things. I'm just running here to, slow pace here so we can have a little conversation, but one thing I wanted to note was on this case feeder, it seems like the larger cartridges have no issues. I've never had one come in backwards. When I'm running 9mm, I'll probably get, 1 or 2 every 100 cartridges or so, and I don't know if it's just the way the 9mm on the length of it and the fact that it's tapered causes that issue, but it happens. So I've just run through about 25 here, And then I'm going to do some checks, and we should hear that beep. There we go. So we're going to do some checks and see what they look like. All right, I just grabbed about 3 here. We're going to check them in our Dillon case gauge. So they all should drop in nice and flush there. So those all look pretty good. So I'm going to check. We're around 125, 125.2 or something like that. Oops. Yep, so that one looks good. Yep, 125. 125.2. All right, let's check our crimp again. Let's see here. Yep, 123. That's kind of what we were shooting for. Looks good. There we go. All right, we're just going to check, make sure our primer depths look good, and they're sub flush, so we're ready to roll. All right, so we're all done. We've got our 10mm conversion kit, our die set up, we've got our powder measure set up, we've got the powder cop set up. We're running rounds now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this series. You know, we started out way at the beginning over on our Redding T7. We did some load development, we did some shooting, we did some chronograph stuff. We went through the die setup process on the T7, and we went through the die setup process here on the XL750. So it's been quite a long series, but now we're at the point where I get to spend some time down here making some quality ammunition. So I'm really looking forward to that. In fact, I've got another 500 that I picked up. So I'm going to knock out 1,000, and then I'm going to work on some case prep and get on to the next project, which I'm not sure what that is yet, but I've had some requests of going back a little bit, back to the basics, and doing some loading on my RCBS Rock Chucker Supreme, so I'm all for it. If you guys ever have any questions or something you want to see, feel free to drop me a line. My email address is squatchreloading@gmail.com. I'm over on Facebook and Instagram at squatchreloading, so go check us out over there. These videos are on Utah Gun Exchange, Gunstreamer, and the Reloaders Network. So until next time, guys, God bless.